what isn't new these days, right? Okay, so how's the world treating us? What can I say? I got nothing. I'm like I am a spent shell. I'm just like I am here. The good thing is that I'm here for yoga, to lead doing yoga, because if it was anything to do with my analytical mind, I would absolutely just be like, nope, nobody home, all gone. Add to it a little bit of me sneakily trying to work mindfulness into my online academic classes. So not so sneaky actually, but yeah. So I've had a lot going on. How anything I should know about before we get rolling with all of you, or any of you, I should say? I don't know. Yeah, anything I don't know. Well, welcome back. Oh, hey, happy to. So what I thought we would do is, oh, that's what I was, see? There's why I often, the truth of it is, everyone, is that when I'm practicing on my own these days, I have a second. Okay. I never take notes. Like I would never ever be practicing with, like a set routine. I actually, which is funny, right? Because I suppose in this sense, yoga is perhaps like many things that we learn how to do, that there's often a fairly significant disconnect between the actual practice of the thing that we've learned and how we learn to do it. So, in the early, and in particular, I should say, when I'm teaching a group of people as opposed to just practicing on my own, when I'm practicing on my own, there is no agenda other than for me to do exactly what I'm doing now, which is to sit my butt, keister comes down, and mouth quiets down, and hopefully over the period of minutes or however long it takes, my brain quiets down. And everything sort of comes into regulation. Like it's not, as I alluded to a moment ago when we were setting up, it's not an analytical process. That being said, when you're teaching others or leading a practice, having a sort of a clear sense of where you're going is helpful. And I had mentioned in the email I sent out today that I had something pretty specific in mind. Well, that all works until you sit down and realize, oh my goodness, you haven't actually worked out what that is. So, which isn't to say I'm not prepared, it's just I'm not normally preparing in this way. So what I thought we would do is, since we're going to be, we're essentially going to be in two positions today to start, okay? Or I should say to practice. One is going to be lying down. You don't have to do this yet, but lying down in some version, okay? We'll be messing with our bodies on our backs. The second main shape that we're going to find ourselves in is in a tabletop position. So hands and knees on the floor, okay? And the one thing I wanted to show right at the outset, okay, is that a few things. Now this is tricky for me because I'm truly blind without my glasses. And it doesn't feel right to me to practice with them on, but so I'm trying to see myself in the camera, but with less success than I would have hoped. What you'll often see here, I'm going to really exaggerate it. See how I've snuck my knees up there? Okay, they're not under my hips. Okay, the other way you can do this a bunch of different ways is to be really extended like this, where you're leaning over and it almost becomes like a little plank pose. What we want to do is sneak the knees so that they're directly under the hips. Okay, when we're practicing. And we want, again, same thing with the hands. We don't want to be way out here. We don't want to be in here. You might actually just play with, I'm saying this at the outset, just because we'll get into the flow, and I'm going to try not to take you into these technical detours. But the one thing you might try to do with respect to that setup, okay, once you're stacked, is in this front position, is if you notice the eyes of my elbows, and thank you for restraining your amazement at the idea that my elbows have eyes. what I mean by that is this little hollow, right? This little indent here. If you were to bring your hands down, okay, they tend to be turned naturally, in most bodies, it's going to vary a little bit, but turned in toward one another, okay, naturally. And what I would ask you to do, and it's a way of sort of corkscrewing your hands into the mat, is simply to turn, okay, turn the eyes of your elbows forward, okay? And when you keep your hands set, what that has the effect of doing is, well, two things. One is that you're turning your shoulders into external rotation, like you're turning out. It would be like if your hands are here and you're like, going my way, okay? Like the shoulders are really turning out, which is a healthier position to be in terms of where we're gonna be. The other aspect of this is it turns everything on in the line, this sort of line under the armpits. Like, and you can even, first time you come through, you'll feel that sort of turn on, okay? So that we really like. And last thing, I'm turning back to the side view now, okay, is that when you're here, a couple of things with your feet, okay? So the position that I'm in right now, okay, don't mind my knee position because I wasn't really worried about that, but you can see my toes are on the floor, tracking on the floor. This is more stable, okay? If I bring my toes down, the tops of my feet, okay, this is less stable. So you have a little bit of control over what's happening. The one thing that you don't want to do, and I'm going to now turn away from the camera because it's the best way to see it, sorry about that, is, hopefully you can see my feet, okay, is if they're down, is that tendency to do that, to sickle them, okay, so in other words, where they fly out to the sides. Now, if you imagine walking with your feet curled like that, not so great, right? So that's not what we want to do. You want to find the line, the inner line of your leg, okay, in that position so that the feet don't turn out. Does that make sense? And if you are now reconsidering having showed up for yoga because you're like, what? I thought we were going to be breathing and not moving, not just with the anatomy lesson. Here it comes, okay? We are going to practice a very short little sequence, okay? That sequence involves, we're going to be in those two positions. We're going to start on our backs. We're going to do a few poses in there, okay, a few little movements. Then we're going to slowly transition up and find ourselves on, in that tabletop shape. A few little poses in there, a little sequence where you can flow around. And then we're going to pause and we'll do it all again, okay? So we're going to aim to do this 3 times. And when we do it, so we'll do it once on one side, once on the other, and then the third just for kicks. What I was going to suggest and what I had alluded to in my communication to the group this morning was that we would make this very much about breath. Okay, now I know at the outset that you might be saying, well, of course it's about breath. We're practicing yoga. Well, yes, certainly, but I think that the reality is that for many of us, when we're practicing, we get caught up in the physical movements of our body, for one, or we get caught up in the mental movements of, whether we like it or not, of what's going on up here. And so the breath gets kind of lost, okay? So I'm going to try to remember to keep bringing you back to your breath, okay, as we practice. And the idea, because I'm a big, I love to experiment when we're practicing. Like, I think it's really cool when we practice if we can actually just note the subtle little changes, the little differences when we move things around, move the furniture around, so to speak. So we're going to try this little sequence, and I'm going to cue you to change your breath each time around. Now, don't worry, this isn't fancy-pantsy yoga pranayama, like breathing with locks in our body or anything like that. In fact, the 3 breaths that I'm going to suggest, the first one is a do nothing breath, okay? Meaning you control nothing, just breathe naturally, okay? Second one, I'm going to ask you, provided that you aren't plugged up, to breathe only through your nose. So in other words, to alter things if you normally are a bit of a mouth breather, okay? No fingers being pointed there, but just try to close things down. And then can you maintain the flow of the practice breathing through your nose, okay? And then the third time we're gonna kind of find a marriage between the two where we inhale through our nose, and exhale, like sigh audibly, and push the air out. Good? Oh my gosh. I hate to say no to any suggestion that it should be, anything should be done as if we were in an 80s disco aerobic class, because I really feel like that should be our resting state. No, I would say, so you're not channeling your inner chain fa note. It would be, it's more like, so what my intention in that breath is like a full inhale in through the nose, and then on the exhale, it's just like, it's almost like, my intention is like cleansing. It's just like, just letting it go, as opposed to a where I'm generating heat. Does that? I am pursing my lips. Yes. Yeah. So just, but certainly, I mean, again, everything's an experiment here. You could be, how does it vary if I go versus I go, okay, which it's going to be very different actually. But good questions, and thank you for the mental image now of 80s disco. I feel like I should get my leg warmers. Okay, so a little bit, we're gonna have to actually ad-lib a little bit here, and so this might be, if you're watching, and so for anyone who's here live, know that I'm taping in the background, so there's also a version of this, because I always post the videos online on the YouTube channel. So if you were watching this after the fact, you could actually pause the video now and get what you need. If not, okay, if you're here live, awesome. Don't worry about pausing the video. This may work and it may not. So the one request off the top was for a chest opener, okay, to really be able to bring those shoulders back. And what I've done now, I'm cheating because I've got all sorts of props. So what I'm going to do is show you a few ways in, okay? And what I'm not going to ask you to do is sit and watch me do this for 3 minutes, okay, or whatever it'll be. I'm going to give options, and when the option that looks right comes to you, you're just like, bang, that's the one, then that's your starting pose, okay? And you can take it and immediately just enter the practice. Start by stopping, meaning just let go of the day. Even let go of what's going on in the background in the sense of me instructing the rest of the group, and just breathe. Just try to be with whatever is, okay? So option one, this will be, we'll call this the non-complicated, or I can't figure out how to do what he's asking me to do, is to be simply in a reclined pose, okay? And for this, what we're gonna do, okay, is you would be lying down. Whew. So sometimes called corpse pose or shavasana. And really, like if you think about yourself as a board, we're gonna open everything up, let everything sort of roll out. So imagine like your spine or the center of your body is like a high point, and everything else is running off in all directions. Just allow yourself to come down like that, okay? Now, wonderful pose, but not a ton of back opening there. So the other option is to put a little bit of height, and a little here goes a long way. A little bit of height underneath your back. And the place that we want to put this, so this could be a little pillow. It can be, if you have a foam yoga block, it could also be that, okay? I'll show that version. And so I guess I'm offering this as well with the expectation that you may not be able to accomplish this today, but since there was a request for a back bend to open, or at least a back bend in our practice to open the chest, that if you see this constructed, this is the kind of thing you'd be able to accomplish for yourself at any point. And you could really go into this pose just on your own, okay? So if we're putting in a little bit of height, it's going to be on the line, basically at the bottom line of your shoulder blades, okay, along the back. So I'm sort of reaching, okay, in there. All right. So, and what we're going to do is simply, so I'm starting with a fairly small bundle, and that's just this blanket, okay? And I'm gonna try to center it roughly, okay, on that line of my shoulders. Okay, and that is gonna create a teeny bit of height, and as I breathe in, I'm gonna feel like, or aim for the feeling of almost like there's a string attached to my sternum and it's being pulled up and hooked up to the ceiling, and I'm just going to allow that natural sort of energetic pull to happen, and then countering that without forcing, without pushing, I'm just going to allow my shoulders to drop down towards the sides of my mat. Okay? Now, the other versions of this, so it might be blanket, it might be pillow, okay, and you can see that's much, much thicker, which is going to give a much bigger back bend, okay. Ooh, yeah, now I've just heard an so I want to, again, caution, slower is better. Okay, go and make this an exploration, especially the entering. So, you know, Deb had raised the point about transitions and us transitioning slowly to start the practice. This is always a wonderful instruction. There's no rush, like we're not rushing off the mat to get anywhere. So, especially in the transitions, going slow, okay? So the third and final one, now this is not a foam block, this is a wood block, so a lot less forgiving, but if you had a foamy, placing that again in that line of your shoulder blades, and then you can slide down. Now, in my case, because I've got a second block, I'm going to place it back behind to catch the back of my head, just so it's not too deep and I'm not flopped open. Okay? But let's take our first few breaths, our first few moments here, like this. And certainly, if anyone has any questions, here I'm going to take a peek. All right. If anyone has any questions, then please fire away. I know, sometimes people feel reluctant to speak in a yoga class. Our community is its own thing, so fire away if you have a question. And if not, do your thing, breathing, just arriving. Okay. So I'm actually going to return to the blanket roll, which felt nicest for me. Depends on the day. And just a few little, call them yoga orders of business, or just little reminders about the practice. What I am cueing you through are suggestions. If it feels good, then that's awesome, explore that. If it feels challenging and a challenge feels good today, then even better, explore that too. If it feels painful, let's not explore that today, let's back off, okay? If your breath stops, if your body begins to tense, if you feel exertion past a point that you're comfortable with, then maybe you've overdone it. And that doesn't necessarily mean a quick movement. Okay, we're talking about slow transitions. Even staying in a pose, in a particular pose for too long can be a bit much. So just go for as long as makes sense. Coming out of the poses when your body says that's it, and staying in if not. Final moment, I'll leave you in silence, and just, if you haven't already, notice the natural cadence of your breath. Notice what's happening right now. Not trying to change it, not trying to shape it, just noticing your breath. Long or short, smooth or ragged, letting it be whatever it is. now however much, what we call in our asana practice, however much heart opening we've had. So in other words, regardless of the extent to which we've been able to allow the fronts of our chest and shoulder to open up, we're going to move out of this pose now. Before we do, let's accentuate that feeling. So if it feels okay to you, can you bring both hands, one at a time, in behind your head? You'll have to just gently lift your head to accomplish that. Interlacing your fingers. My video went away. How rude of it. Oh, hold on a second. Am I there? Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so bringing one hand in, the other, interlacing our fingers. And then from here, you can decide either lifting up ever so slightly, okay, but bringing your elbows as wide as you can. Now you can hear in my voice the shaking. There is a little abdominal work going on. And then when I've had enough of the shaking, I come down. And really think about spreading your ribs apart with the breath. Okay, the breath is still just doing what it's doing. We're not trying to control it, but your sternum stretches up toward the sky, your ribs open, your elbows point down, maybe lift up again. And it looks like I've lost my video feed again. I hope you did. Okay, oh, it's just so funny. The internet connection's been stable all day, but okay, and third time through, inhale, feel your body, feel your breath, one big inhale, exhale, and release back down. Okay, we'll try and see what is happening here with my internet connection. Oh, I see, that is a problem. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully that doesn't cut out. My battery is showing as being a little light. So just everyone know that if we lose the feed here, I will run and get a charger. I'm going to take the risk that we're okay. Okay, so from your lying position, okay, let's simply transition out of this pose. You may just roll to one side and remove the blanket, the block, or whatever was underneath, and allow yourself to come back down. Okay. And then from here, we're going to inhale. Okay, let's actually bring both heels right onto the floor, toes point up. Okay, so it feels like you're one long line. Okay, good. And then from here, hands can come into your hips so that you're actually giving yourself a little bit of support. Okay, if you have any low back issues going on right now, you can also, just for an extra bit of padding, bring the palms of your hands onto the mat underneath your low back and bum, so that the tops of your hands, okay, are just underneath, like that. Okay. For some bodies, this isn't necessary. For others, it just gives a little bit of a support to come up. And then let's really press our left heel down, okay, into the mat or into the ground, and inhale, bring the right leg up. Okay. Exhale, lower, and breathe. So breathe however you're breathing. Inhale up, exhale, lower. Okay, we got this. Inhale, we come up, and then when we get to the top, let's pause. I'll pause our breath, but just pause, keep our leg there, and then from here, bring your leg over into a circle. Heel comes down towards the ground, and then toes take you out away to the opposite side, and come up, and pause, and go back the opposite way. So opening through the bottom, cross the other side, and up. And exhale, leg comes down. Okay. Now from here, And I'm taking my hands out just to accomplish this. We're going to do the same sort of motion, but with a slightly different setup. So this time, again, hands can be at your hips or they can be on the front of your hips. Let's press that left heel in. Inhale, bend the right knee as if you're stepping up onto a step or placing your heel onto the seat of an imaginary chair. Okay? And exhale, can you tap? Now you're going to be doing this without the benefit of sight. Tap your heel down, seeing how gently, how softly you can place it down. Inhale up. Exhale. Tap. Good. Inhale up. Good. And exhale down. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to move to a little bit of internal rotation. So from this position, what I'm going to ask you to do is turn both sets of toes in toward one another, okay? Almost like the feeling of like being knock-kneed, okay? And you can absolutely bring a little bend into your knees if that's more comfortable, okay? But, so toes turning in, and then let's place that right heel up on top of the left foot. Okay, so it's almost like you're holding like you have to go to the bathroom, but hopefully not, okay? And then in this position, can you just drag without turning your toes back, okay? So my right toes are turned towards the left side of the mat, the left toes are turned toward the right, and begin to drag your right heel up the left leg, however far. It might go 2 inches, it might go 2 feet. So you're really thinking about turning both legs into one another. If you end up getting to a point where you can touch your inner thigh or your knee, and you may or you may not, you can actually press your hand into the inner thigh to accentuate this. 3, notice what's happening with your breathing. 2, 1, and then exhale, keeping that internal rotation through both hips. So toes turned out in either direction. Come on back down. And then let the legs go. And just give them a little shake out. Maybe waggle your toes from side to side. Okay, so we just worked the inner thighs there significantly. So now let's give them a little break. So both feet come onto the mat. Okay, so knees are bent. And then let's step just the right foot out, about a shin's distance away from your setup. Okay, and by all means, you can peek if you just see my sort of setup where I'm at, okay? So wherever feels comfortable, and then if your toes are glued to the mat or to the floor, let's lift them up, okay? So we're not torquing our leg here. Then let's drop that right knee forward and in, finding a nice big stretch through that same area. So we engage it first through muscular action, and now we give ourselves a little release. And then allow yourself to come back up. Step the foot back in, and then both feet come back down. Okay? We're going to stay with this reclined position, but this time, legs aren't going to do the work. We're going to move into our shoulders for a second, okay? You may need a little bit of room up over your head, so just be aware of that. I don't mean up top in space, I mean like over top of your mat, okay? In fact, let's just test that. So bringing both palms down, so a little lower than your hips, flat on the ground. And then on your next inhale, sweep the hands up so that your fingers point up to the ceiling. And then exhale, bring the backs of your hands down behind any amount. Now, if it begins to feel crunchy as you get down towards the ground, don't worry about bringing them up, okay? Notice the extent to which you've begun to perhaps billow your chest up, okay? Compensating in order to reach back. So can you drop your mid-back down, okay? It might mean that your hands don't get down all the way, that's okay. And we'll come up and exhale down. Let's do that one more time. Inhale up. Exhale back. This is just a little clearing before we start. And then inhale up and exhale down to return. Now, with your hands, fingers spread, like big wide hands, getting them super energized, okay? Think about breathing them open. Exhale, ball them up. Breathe them open. Again, we're not nothing special, just whatever breath feels right. Close them up, okay? Now breathe them open, and your thumbs are gonna point in toward your outer leg. Okay, so you're bringing them down, your arms are down by the sides of your body again. Okay, notice if your legs have just kind of begun to flop, can you bring them back up so there's almost like a little tiny tension holding the legs close to one another? Okay, and then with the tips of your thumbs touching on the outer part of your leg or your hip, can you begin to trace your thumbs up? Okay, your elbows are going to come out to the side. They're going to come way out to the side as you trace up. I'm up to kind of like my low ribs now. And then you're going to come up pretty close, or maybe not so close, doesn't really matter how close you get, to your armpits. When you get there, what I'm going to ask you to do is ground your elbows, roll everything open so that the hands come down, and then you can slide them perhaps along the floor, and inhale up and exhale them down to return. Did that land? Now I was doing that sort of blind. Did that make sense? I hope. Let's try one more time. So arms at the sides, thumbs grazing the outer thigh or hip, and like you're pulling up through quicksand. Okay, so super slow. The elbows go out. Inhale. Trace, trace, trace up towards the armpit, then ground, roll it out so that the backs of your hands come down, and then slide them up behind you. Inhale, and exhale down. Right on. Okay. And then, and I'm going to roll with the punches here. So now I'm going to ask, meaning I've just made an executive decision about our practice and how this is going to roll out. Like all the good yogis do, going on the fly. Okay, I've just moved it around because I'm limited in terms of space where I'm at. We're gonna follow the same sequence, okay, on our left side, or if you were moving on your left side, just flip it. Now you're on your right, okay? We'll see how well my memory holds up in terms of that little sequence, all right? And then our third round of breath we'll do in that tabletop position. So, if you were, whatever your normal breathing was before, now I'm going to ask you, if it's not uncomfortable, okay, I'll have to open my mouth in order to cue you through to talk, but otherwise, let's close your lips, okay, and just breathing nasally, okay? And no fancy yoga breathing here. There doesn't have to be an ocean sound or any constriction in your throat. Instead, can you make your breath a circle? And what I mean by that is, just lying here in this prone position, okay, or this, I should say supine position, flipped upside down, just experience that for 2 or 3 cycles. Inhale through the nose. Almost no pause at the top. Exhale through the nose. Almost no pause at the bottom. Inhale. So it's like an inhale and exhale, an inhale and exhale. And everything just flowing. It's like your nose is just like, it's the passenger. The breath is doing all the work moving through, okay? And try to keep that going as we move through this next sequence. Notice if it changes things up at all, okay? That might either be the quality of the practice, or it might be the impact of trying to remember to stay with this breath, okay? So again, option either to tuck the hands underneath your bum, or to be beside. We'll ground the right heel, okay? Almost maybe feeling like you're pulling that heel toward you, so that whole leg turns right on, even though it's not moving anywhere, okay? And then from here, let's inhale and bring the left leg up. Exhale through the nose, leg comes down. Notice the tendency for that grounded leg to want to roll open, so really ground, hug, pull, and then inhale, left toes go up. Exhale, return. Last time we'll come inhale up, exhale. Oh, sorry, my bad. Exhale, we don't come down. See, this is, do I remember? This time we'll exhale and bring the leg wide. By the way, if you feel, and you'll excuse my terminology, as you inhale through the nose and come up the other side, if you feel any crunchiness in the hip, come up to the top and then simply reverse course, coming through the exhale on your inner line and the inhale on your outer line. And what I was going to say there is if you're feeling any sort of crunchiness through the hip or grinding, try to lead with the outer heel. Like, make that the point of the circle for your leg and see if that changes things up. That's, and again, I'm not going to go into a long why that would be, but you might try that and see how that switches things up. Okay. On our next inhale, we can have our hands just in front of our hips this time, or again, they can be at the side. And just bending and flexing both the left hip, knee, and ankle. So everything is turned on, like it's that sort of imaginary step up. Okay? And then, from here, okay, can you tap your heel down? And do this as lightly as you can. Oh, see the floor snuck up on me. Inhale, come up. So you're doing this by feel. Does your breath, that breath coming through your nose, does it get tentative as you begin to feel down? I think the floor is there. I think, oh, there it is. Okay, come on back up. Good. And one final time, a little tap. Oh. And inhale, come on back up. Okay, and then we'll release the leg down. All right, from here, what we're gonna do is inhale, arms rise, okay? And then when we get to the top, we'll exhale and come back behind, okay? Then imagine you had like something heavy in here, so it's just imaginary, but you're bringing both hands up equally with the force to bring that load, that weight up. Exhale, just pushing it off yourself down below. Inhale, rise. Exhale, come on behind. Good. And then reverse course. Okay, now we're coming to that point where oh, I apologize. It's telling me that it's not happy. Is everyone okay? Oh, 10%. I think we're going to be okay, but I'm not sure. How am I going to do this? I apologize. Well, you know what? We're gonna risk it. Okay. So we're back where we were, and we're going to bring our toes in toward one another. Okay. Place the left heel on top of the right foot, so toes are pointing across one another, and then with that position, begin to drag, not losing the squeeze between the legs, not losing the turn into one another, and drag that heel up. Could be a little bit, could be a lot. If you come up and you can reach your leg, reach your knee, whatever, press the knee into the hand, press the hand into the knee. Resist. 3, 2, 1. And then again, tracing that heel down. And just give those legs a little waggle, a little shake out. Okay. From here, we're going to take both hands. Okay. Make them big. Inhale. Inhale. And then bringing your thumbs on the inhale, we open up, thumbs in to graze our sides of our body, and trace. Come up the sides, allow the elbows to come out wide, wide, wide. When you get up, it doesn't feel like you can go any further up Then flip your hands, okay? And rock them back. Really reaching, maybe even reaching with the toes, point, point, point. And, oh, see, I cheated. My body told me, closed mouth, no way, this feels too good. That's okay, see, a little bit of feedback, this is what I mean. Okay, last time. Inhale from the bottom, closed lips. Trace the ribs, the sides of your body, breathing in, filling up, and then hands come down and slide out. And exhale through closed lips, meaning through your nose. Good. And release. Now, I'm going to give you a moment to transition. So, be purposeful. Have an intention about how you are going to move to come up from your back onto your all fours, onto your tabletop. Okay. All right, so from here, and sorry, my bad. You probably heard that and said, oh, I've got to hurry up. Don't. Okay, breathe. And in fact, what I'll do is just cue you to our next set of breathing. So if the first was choose your own adventure, and the second was that like internal circle, like that, then what we're going to do is, so it's almost like a little cool down in terms of those pursed lips. Okay. All right. And we're not going to repeat that third sequence. Instead, we're going to move into a little sequence here, not super long, just to give ourselves a little change of shape. So again, even though I've assumed the position, you might need longer. Your body might need a moment, you know, in a prone position on the side. It might need a moment here. It might need a moment here, okay? So really taking your time, okay? You can join us where you are, when you do, okay? So, all those little cues that I had laid out at the beginning, stack your hands under your shoulders, stack your knees roughly under your hips, okay? Stack your feet in a way that makes sense to you, okay? And then turn the eyes of your elbows forward, okay? Good. And then from here, now we're gonna get tippy-tippy, so can you inhale and bring your left leg back? Both hands are down, okay? And then from there, simply, and I say simply, not because it's easy, because there's not a whole lot of movement to it. Can you bring your knee and toes out to the side as if you were a dog peeing on a fire hydrant? And you can probably hear my dog protesting at my appropriation of his key pose. Okay, so you can be there and then allow the knee to come back. Okay, and then this time we're going to just reverse it. So come up into that hydrant. And remember, your hydrant might be really small. Might be here. A little hydrant. Okay. We're there. And then the leg comes out, behind. Press that heel out. And knee comes down. Okay. Opposite side. Inhale, bring the right leg out. Press through that heel like you're pressing it onto the wall behind you. And then bend the knee and find that hydrant. And then lower the leg, sweeping it in. Inhale. Bring the leg up. Exhale through pursed lips. Take off. Press it back. And then set it down. Okay? Okay, now we're going to bring in a little bit of arm action. So this is going to get a little bit trickier. So know that if this starts to feel precarious, then just we can be super careful, okay? So super slow. Let's bring the left leg back up, okay? Pressing the heel behind. Make your left hand super big and maybe even move it into the center of your mat a little bit. And then tentatively, gently begin to lift. You can see I'm just really playing with taking the right hand up, okay? Maybe bringing it forward and breathing there. And then exhale, both come down. And inhale, we come up. down, and then wait for this last one, because here's where we're going to put it all together. Left leg goes up, right arm inhales up to join, and then we're going to bring the elbow toward the knee toward the elbow. Inhale, press everything out, reach, 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 and then exhale through those lips. Hand comes down, knee comes out into your hydrant. And sweep the leg down. And that's one side. Okay, so right leg rises on the inhale. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, lift that leg up. And then on the next breath, next inhale, left arm comes up. And we've got a special appearance here from Chloe, my other puppy, who's decided that she's like, this is a bird dog pose, and I'm a bird dog. I know what the deal is. Thank you, Sneak. Okay, so we're here, we're breathing, okay, and then come on down. And we're gonna put the two of them together. So inhale, right leg, okay. Inhale, bring the left arm. Exhale through pursed lips. Good. Inhale to extend back out. Exhale, bring your hand down, and then find your hydrant in whatever shape it exists. Exhale, come on down. And then super, super slow here. We're gonna just drop our hips back. Not even a child's pose exactly. I'm just coming back any amount and tenting my fingers and stepping them up toward the top of my mat in this like spider shape with my hands, and feeling like I'm bringing my shoulder blades out, so it's this, okay? Really stretching through, almost like I'm trying to open up through my armpit. So, okay? And then drag the hands back. And notice how you feel, and let go of that breath. Okay, now, and I'm cognizant, here's where I'm going to cheat with the length of our practice and my declining battery strength. We are going to transition slowly. So we've gone through the side one, side two, breath one, breath two. We've moved through our little balance sequence here on our hands and knees. So I'm going to ask you to choose a comfortable position to close the practice. And if my battery dies, that's how the practice will close. I apologize. Hopefully we're okay, but we're going to stay here, okay, in a relaxed breath. Okay, so I'm actually going to stay, just because it feels right to me, exactly where I am. Okay, I'm in a pose called hero pose. But you can absolutely transition back to your back, or you can simply shimmy down, if it's accessible, onto your belly. This upside down corpse pose can be really nice, where you bring both hands and just rest your forehead. Okay? Final couple of minutes of the practice. No problem to solve. Nowhere to go. Nada to do. Just allow what you've done to integrate into your body, into your mind. Both of which are more intelligent than we give them credit for. They can figure it out. As we always do, we close the practice by thanking ourselves, thanking our community, the community of everyone that comes here to do this thing together on Mondays, which is so sustaining to me, and I hope to one another. And I'm gonna share my thanks to all of you for practicing, for taking the time out of your day. And then if your way of signing off is namaste, then it's namaste, or thank you, or be well, or whatever it is. For me these days, it is peace in, and peace out. And that's it, my friends. Be well, and we'll we'll get back to it next week. Now, that wasn't me kicking anyone off the call here. This is just me ending the taped part of the class.